Hello, all. Welcome to another session. This is specific to writing test cases, especially for mobile environment. And I seriously hope that you be starting, learning the mobile testing, and you have a fair idea about mobile test cases basically. And I presume that you know little testing, and that is how you end up in learning mobile testing. But I really want to cover from the scratch, and if you are, I hope you are comfortable in relooking what you really know. So, but we still have to do this, and let's see what is a test case. And in my views, that I seriously believe that test case is the core of the test execution, and without a good test case, a good test execution may not really happen, and with that we will end up in defects, and we will end up in defects leaking to the market, and it's going to be a big embarrassment without writing a good test cases. So what this Wikipedia says: a test case in software engineering is a set of conditions or variables under which a tester will determine whether an application or a software system or one of its features is working as it was originally established for it to do. You may heard about verification and validation. What is the difference between verification and validation? And if you really don't, you should really take a look at the software testing portal, and you should really read that. And the mechanism for determining whether a software program or system has passed or failed such a test is known as a test oracle. In testing, certain tests, for example, a software application that goes to a flight or aeroplane or a medical system like a scanning system, it's been repeatedly tested, the core, because since it is really about lives, and it's supposed to be tested again and again, so you cannot afford a defect leakage in an application delivered to an airline system, and you cannot. So testing is much serious when it's come to applications that involves risk. So that is where the testing takes momentum, and it's been repeatedly tested. So a software application or mobile application has a defect, crashes in a device, may result into people uninstall it just right away, because now, as I said earlier, people have the ability to delete an app within 3 to 5 seconds, and if your application is keep on crashing in their device, they will simply delete it, and it's going to be a very costly defect. And so that is how different test mechanisms like update testing, installation testing, everything happens. But the core is writing the basic set of test cases. The varieties of test cases, I'll come back to that little bit later. But at this point in time, what is really a test case? And we should see that. In some settings, an oracle could be requirement or use case, while in others it could be a heuristic. So it may take many test cases to determine that a software program or system is considered sufficiently scrutinized to be released. The test cases are often referred as test scripts as well, particularly when written when they are usually collected into test suites. and this is how it is. A test suite can contain a lot of test scripts, so it may not really be an automated test script that you will call. Even written test cases can be called as test scripts. So that is how it goes, and you should really read it more when you have some time. And I really want to showcase you a good structure of a test case at this point in time. There is been I got this from a friend, and spec version date changes. This is a change note screen, and here it is who had written it, and DUT, device under test, version, and test case ID, and description or objective, test setup, precondition, and test steps. On the top of that, results count and rate of passing. Here expected result, actual result, and some comments, use case ID, defect report, and requirement ID. So traceability matrix, that is another thing which we need to talk about right now. Your test cases written from a software requirement specification or something called wireframes. From there you convert your use cases, and then from there you will write different test cases, and you should backtrack from whatever test case is written is really covering that. That is how you will write something called traceability matrix. And for this requirement ID, I have these many test cases. So that is how it goes. And so you can cover it. So a traceability matrix is a document usually in the form of a table. It correlates any two baseline documents that require as many to many relationship to determine the completeness of the relationship. So the relationship here is the wireframes to the test cases. It's often used with high-level requirements. These often consist of marketing requirements and the detailed requirements of the product to the matching parts of high-level design, detailed design, test plan, and test case. So that is how it goes. So we can have a table that is having requirement ID or SRS ID and wireframe ID with the IDs we made for that SRS, the test cases we made. So one SRS or wireframe ID may have 10 to 15 test cases, or maybe even have one test case. That is based on how you do it. So that is how it goes. So let's see. Now, what are all the, how it is different from normal test cases to a mobile environment. So that is how we can plan this session. So let's see. Let's test case. Maybe in the beginning, let's have serial number and test case ID and test setup and key condition, test data, description, steps, expected result, actual result, and result, passed or failed, test result. Probably we can call that test result. And executed by comments if any, and wireframe ID SRS ID, software requirement specification ID, and wireframe path. We can use this sheet as a result sheet as well, test case and result sheet. And for example, if you're using tools like Track or Jira or Bugzilla, so you can say Jira ID if you raised a defect for that particular step. Okay, so now, so it's serial number 1. Let's have any before that, let's pull up some scenario to test. So maybe let's run our emulator then. Maybe let's test something that we already know, or some app that we can test and take the result from. Okay, there is an app, API demos. Let's run that. Now we are in Android, and I'm just running that one. And why to wait? Let's run an emulator from iPhone as well. Now let's go back there. Let's test the contact application. So let's change this to Android phone book. Okay, test case ID, baby phone book, Android, any number like this, test setup. Whether it is an emulator testing or whether it is a direct device testing, say emulator. Precondition: what if you don't have the source code? You will not really have access to the code which is latest. So you should say the precondition that SVN access available, and SVN or CVS or Git. These are all configuration management systems. I hope you are really aware of that. And available, cloned, latest software version. You cloned it, and taking that from there, it's cloning. And no SIM card required. Okay, test data. Phone numbers and contact details of test accounts. Contact details, that's all. Without that, how can you feed? Because in a phone book, there may be different scenarios that you may save an international number, a local number. So you may need to those test numbers, email IDs, long email IDs, small email IDs, everything ready in a test data sheet, and you will use that. So description, let's say verify test an international number to be saved in the phone book with an email ID. Steps. Let's find out whether our emulators are up. Yeah, that is our emulator, and this is our app, contact app. And let's see what we got here. Let's do that. Just dragging it. Let me just go to the main menu. I need to see how it really looks. So based on that, I can write the test cases. And obviously, if you look at an application and write a test case, most likely you will not really find any defects. So I really want you to refer the wireframes or the SRS document to create test cases. When you are creating the test cases, even though the app is ready, the basic version is ready, I request you to not to look at that at all, because the developers making the applications from the wireframes written from the SRS document, they make the functionality based on the SRS document. The wireframes often have with screens, and in this scenario, never believe that exactly from the wireframe and the functionality document the app is built. So I request you to not look at the application at all. So that is how it goes. Very straightforwardly, I wanted to tell you this. And let's see. Expected result, test result executed by, for example, test trivia tester, wireframe ID maybe CO test 003, SRS ID CO SRS 004, maybe C, or a server path. You can give the path. If you had made a defect, you can just do that, because you can use this sheet, same sheet as a test result sheet as well. Let's see what we got. So let's see it. And sometimes that there may not be a wireframe available at all. It may be very basic versions, and sometimes they will give you a wireframe version which is much older, and not always the wireframes also updated. Sometimes based on the client request, the wireframes are often stays as same, and the requirement document may be updated, or even directly the app may be updated. So in that scenario, so you should really make sure that you insist the design team to update the wireframe as well, because it's a rapidly changing environment and everybody working on something new. And so what happens if the wireframe they don't update and something else came into the implementation and it was wrong, and you don't really insist that the wireframes to be updated, and you will test some wrong product, and that wrong product will go to the market. Once it hits the market, then you will be questioned. And so understand this. Testing a desktop environment is kind of okay. If you leak a defect, you can quickly change it. But in mobile environment, people are really fast in deleting your app. The moment you deliver a wrong product, they most likely remove your app, and it will reflect in every single system For example, there are systems like Google Play. It will show you how many active installs. There are systems like Flurry, which gives you analytics API. The client will immediately be able to look into that. And I don't want you to get into that kind of scenario, because make sure that you test something from a baselined wireframe and SRS. You create your test cases, which is the core, and you insist on the latest document. If you find a discrepancy in the app and the wireframe, fail the test case and tell them that this, either you update an wireframe and give it to us, and we will review that, update our test cases and send back to your approval. You approve it, again we will test the app based on the updated wireframes, and then I will pass it. This is how you should respond. And you can be little lenient sometimes, but not always. Always insist perfect process in there, because I always quote this, that testing in a mobile environment is walking on a knife kind of thing, that when you leak defects and when you deliver features that is unusable to people, they will immediately remove you from their phone. So that is how I said, that is why I always insist that people should make sure that they test it perfectly. So let's see what happens here. I think the emulator which we try to pull up is stuck, and maybe we should minimize it, minimize it. This is iOS simulator, which is really fine, and here he is actually kind of dead. So let's see. Check what is the process. Just trying to find out where is the emulator's process running, so I can close that. I can even do this, go there, ADT, and quit. Maybe I'll quit this as well. I'll kind of yeah. So as I said earlier, that we don't really need an app to write the test cases. So I've been serious about that. So let's see steps. And step 1, open contacts app. Step 2, select. You can say click, but in mobile environment it's not click, so it's tap. So you can say tap on new contact. Let's say create new contact. Step 3, enter name. Step 4, tap and tap on name. field and enter name. Tap on phone number field and enter an international phone number. Step 5, tap on email ID field and enter a valid. This is mostly a very positive scenario. Valid email ID. Step 6, tap on save, or you can say press menu, right soft key RSK and select save. That's all. Now an international number could be able to can be saved as a phone book contact. Phone number in international format. Refer test data for Singapore number. Say actual result, test result, you can say pass or fail. Fail. Write some comments. So this is how it goes. If it's not able to save that, you will write a Jira ID that if it is Android, droid 0034 unable to save Singapore number. That is how it goes. And this is the basics of the test. And this is a simple test that has a precondition that SIM is not required, and you can say test in Wi-Fi. You can elaborate this test like so. The precondition changes: test with a valid SIM, 2G SIM card, test with a valid 3G SIM card, test with a valid 4G LTE SIM card. This is how the same test case can be copied in these 4 scenarios. And then you can elaborate test with real 4. Or for example 2.3 Android OS, test with 4.0 Android OS, test with 4.4 Android OS, test with 1.6 Android OS, meaning that you can copy the same thing in these are different parameters. So like this, and I copy this and all same. So this is how it goes. So it's a different combinations basically. Yeah. So now one single test use case been elaborated into 12 different test cases. You could see that now at this point in time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 test cases. That's 8 test cases. This is this test case number 2, ID 2. So meaning that, do I need this many test cases? Will this really required? Yes, it is indeed required. It's impossible to omit test cases, and you can also set up a high priority for this. Test priority high, low, high. So there are different combinations, and so it's the one test case. This is just a one test case, but it has to be tested in different combinations, different varieties, and that is how automation is important. And there is people that who can write core test cases is important, and people who really write detailed steps are required in this industry. And I believe that you are the one who is watching this video, and you should really create good test cases and insist on the perfect documentation to make sure that your users are getting a right product, and they don't really delete you when you present your product with their smartphone, because it's more personalized. It's been there is no much space in that. You give a 50 MB buggy product, they will simply delete you. So that is the objective of this session: writing good test cases, writing a traceability matrix that will help you the coverage, and of course, and you will be a great tester very soon. So I wish you for that all the best for that, and I'll see you in another session, and thank you so much for watching.